Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's June 29th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And I thought I'd start by showing you the daily chart here. You can see we've backed off of that midline, 21 EMA or whatever right there, pulling back towards the midline of the two-tiered channel. We didn't quite get to the midline on this two-tiered channel, so I'm not convinced that we're not going lower still, but today was obviously a range day, and you can see this bar here. It's just after 4 o'clock, so the market's closed for the next hour. And so this is the daily bar. It's completed, and you can see it's just a neutral kind of bar, no real direction with it. So price is traded in both directions. It was really a tough trading day. There weren't a lot of trades, easy to get chopped up. These kind of days are difficult to trade. I'll kind of go over that. We'll flip over to the other chart. But here's a look at the daily chart just so you can see it. And notice we didn't get back to that midline. It could be that my chart's off just a hair. I mean, it could be that maybe we did touch it or got close enough. So anyway, let's flip over to that other chart and take a look and go from there. Okay, here it is. And you can see it's pretty chaotic. I mean, there's just no real direction here. Prices are just mixed. I mean, they're up strong 1 minute, down strong the next. Prices are not turning consistently. We had a little bit of consistency up here for a little bit, and then there's just no consistency from that point on, really from 10 o'clock on. This is pretty tough trading, and you see there's not a lot of trades marked there. A lot of green ones, and you probably could argue for some other green ones. But I just think you're better off just to sit this kind of stuff out unless it's very, very clear. So just not a lot going on today, but we'll zoom in here and we'll go through the trades, and it won't take long because there's not many today. And here we are zoomed in a little bit, and you can see 7 o'clock came just as we're kind of coming into these highs here. And really that's a new high for the day, but being that far away from the EMA, we had a close outside. We tried to go higher. We broke higher right there. And when this went right out the other side, I like going short there. You'll probably get at least a scalp out of this. But we really had a range in the highs were here. So this was like a failed breakout. I don't have this line here, but there was clearly some strong resistance across here. Really, I'd probably draw this right across here like so. So you'd expect prices to pull back and test this breakout area, but if they come that far, they're probably coming all the way back to the EMA. So you might get lucky and catch a failed breakout here, but I like that trade just to try to get a scalp, and maybe if you hit the timing right, you get a little more out of it. We're just so far away from the EMA there on a failed breakout above all that resistance. And of course, we run straight on down. This turns out to be a really nice trade. We run down, and notice you get a first entry, and then you shoot right through the EMA, and you get a second entry that fails. I like going long right there because maybe you're going to get a retest, and that's what prices were probably trying to do, retest those highs. They couldn't do it. And notice you get a first entry, second entry that fails. I marked this green. This is a really big bar, and it opens way down here and trades all the way up here before it comes back down. So really, to trade this, you either have to trade the engulfing bar or you wait on this next bar. And really, the failure occurs when it breaks below here. So this is not an ideal setup. I marked it because I know somebody will probably ask me about it. If you wanted to trade this, you had to let it break lower and you had to ride this out. And that's why I always tell you, if you catch an engulfing bar like this, the way you have to play it is move your stop to one tick above this or just take a hit. And a lot of times you may take a hit on a perfectly good trade. So, but if you move it over here and you're wrong, you take an even bigger hit. So these are tough trades. So if you honestly, before this bar formed, it looks like sideways congestion, and I don't think I would go short out of that. So after this bar formed, if it broke lower, maybe you go short there. So I marked it because I just wanted to talk about it, but I would not take that trade. I definitely wouldn't trade it on this break right here lower before it turned higher. Uh, I'd probably want to wait. Yeah, the better trade is just to wait and see if you get a lower high or something. And you get that right here. Notice it tried to go higher again and then turned down. That's the better place to enter. This would I'd probably enter it on the Gulfing bar, but if you wanted to wait till here, I'd be okay with that too. Because we're probably going to test these lows. And we may be turning over like we have done so many times and just trending down. You can see this is a really strong trend down. And a lot of momentum. So if you catch a runner here, you're really in good shape. And then, of course, you get your break here. Got a little channel working up, and you do get a break, move to a new high, and it turns down. You might take that trade right there. Honestly, I think you're better off to wait on a lower high. But that's another one. You could argue for that to be green. There's a bunch like this in here. And of course, we run down, make a new low. We actually make a couple of legs down to a new. I don't see anything else in here I like. And I don't think you want to be trying to pick bottoms. This is too congested. And so there's just really, unless you entered here, there's no real way to catch this strong move up. And again, this is one that you might mark green, but there's no previous support down there. You're just throwing darts at a board, and it's just real dangerous to do that. So I didn't mark it. I won't mark it. I think you're better off to skip that trade. And this looks like a two-tiered channel to me here. But I'm sure somebody will say, well, maybe it's an overshoot. But to me, it looks like a two-tiered channel because you can clearly see we tried to go higher right there too. And then you can see it riding up the EMA right there and bouncing off of it again. Or I'm sorry, not the EMA, the midline. And then we try to go higher once, twice. And being that far away from the EMA, you might take that failure right there because that's certainly going to trap some longs, I promise you, on a momentum that strong. But the problem is it may not get back to the EMA. It may bounce at the trend line. And so there looks like there's enough room there. But you can clearly see this bar could have went another tick lower and bounced. And I don't know if that was enough room. But that's another one. You could argue if you took that trade, I wouldn't be too. If you're wanting to be aggressive, I wouldn't fault you too much for that one. And of course, you get the break 2 legs down. Then now you're trying to make the retest of this high, which you do. And this is a little bit too congested. I'd want to see something different here. You get a reversal here, but you've already got a break of that and a new low. And again, it looks a little bit sideways, and there's not much room between here and here. Sometimes that won't matter on a failure. I probably would have waited for this bar, and it never broke lower there. If you'd have broke below that bar, maybe you go with it. But I'm not crazy about treating this as a reversal. As you can see, you probably would have lost on it. I don't know if there's enough room. Let's see if there's enough room there. 5 ticks. So no, you would have had a 1 tick. That would have been, it would have bounced off your order and not been successful. So then it bounces, turns back down again. I don't think you want to go short above the EMA there. This thing looks like it's still trying to go higher. And then it just suddenly reverses and the bottom falls out of it. No chance to really enter that safely. You do get a triple test down here, but not a very good signal bar. It doesn't look like rejection. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. And so again, great move, but no setup. You get a break outside, runs up, doesn't quite make a new high, and it runs up. And we really were just kind of working sideways here. This was really tempting right here. If there's enough room in there, maybe you take that trade, but it's way on the other side of what looks like a range. And you can see, again, it's only 5 ticks there. So it doesn't matter in the end, but you don't know that ahead of time. So you got to be wise with your choices here. And it's just a failed break higher, and then it rockets up. Again, no chance to get in it. There's no reversal, no none that just reverses. I mean, maybe you get a failed break out here, but you don't even have a signal bar. There's no break of that trend. This just kind of day it was. It just not a lot of opportunities. And we run up. You get a close outside, new high. This is almost a repeat pattern of the one, where was it? Right here. similar to that. So, and it's a pretty good bar. It looks a little, there's a little sideways stuff, but there's not that doji type bar or body with no body or bar with no body. So maybe you take that trade right there. I think you're better off to wait on the lower high, which comes here, and it's there's enough room in there for that one. Um, but it's still not a great setup because it failed here on this when it tried to go lower, and it's still trying to go higher. That's a pretty bullish bar. Maybe you take that short, but when it comes back the third time, and that's notice you did make a new low below the EMA, and then you get a second entry short, and there's plenty of room. I like that one. There is a lower high here, but it's moved too far to really call that a lower high. And this is another one that it broke higher first and then turned down. I'd probably wait on the second entry there, and you don't get one. It just keeps going. So again, you really just don't get a good setup. And then finally, you get your break of this yellow little. This is actually khaki, but it looks kind of yellow. And you try to go higher 3 times. So that's a triple test. And so I like this bar. I don't know if you wait till here to go short, and I'm not exactly sure. I think it broke higher first and then turned down, but it's possible it broke lower and then went higher and came back down. I don't remember. Um, if it broke lower first, I probably wouldn't even mark this trade. If it broke higher first and turned down, maybe you take that. So that would be my explanation on this trade and what I might or might not do with it. But if it broke lower first, I wouldn't fool with it. So it does try to go higher once, twice, and so if it breaks below here, you got a failure, and this sets up right, and you're still trying to make a new low. So I like that one. And again, that's a more advanced trade. So now you got your break, couple legs to a new low, and it looks like we're going to rally out here, and you just kind of go sideways here. There is a failure here, but that's too sideways, and definitely the small body. If you pulled back here and given you a good signal bar, maybe you go long there. There is a failure here, but that's not really the type you like to take. And again, it's an engulfing bar, so it's a little iffy. Just a lot of reasons to skip that trade. And of course, you get a break here, and you get a first entry, and there's a second entry here, but not good enough. Third entry, and so we're just working lower again. It can't even go back and make a new high. This one is one that people probably say, well, why don't you go short there? It is a little away from the EMA, but look, everything, this bar is inside these two, and the one little bar that did break down reversed real quickly, so that's a little bit congestive, and I just think you're better off to wait. You do get a reversal here, but you're still looking for a new high, and this thing's just chopping all over. And so I just think you're better off to sit tight here and see if you finally get something. And finally you run up and you still can't make a new high. But it does make a double top, tries to go higher once, twice, and it does confirm that trend line. If it breaks below there, that's going to be a failure. That's the better place to go short, and you can see it kind of takes off then. It does come back here again, but this is just more sideways congestion, no setup to really catch that. And then finally we bounce down here where we've had a bounce before, but there's no rejection right in there. You already had one bar that tripped everybody up, so do you want to take another chance? And maybe you would have got out of that before it comes back, but that's not rejection, and you don't want to enter down here unless you get rejection. That looks a little like rejection, but this is just a breakout pullback. And then we run up, and then we get our break here of this little short term, and then we're just chopping sideways again. We did get a triple test here. Notice we made that low. You came back, you test it once, you test it twice. Good signal bar, plenty of room back to the highs here. So maybe you take that one, but again, this doesn't look like rejection. Prices are just kind of chopping sideways. Okay, I'm sorry I had an interruption there. Our phone's ringing off the hook. I had to finally answer because they weren't going to quit calling. So I think we talked about this trade. Triple test, a little bit congested there, but we've seen a few of these, and each time once you got a triple test, it bounced. So I marked it green. And then we break out the top, break out the bottom again, and the next thing you know, we're moving forward. There is a reversal here. But this is, again, this was an inside bar of this one, and these inside bars are a little convoluted. I wasn't crazy about it. So it's another one you could argue to be green because it's still technically a failure when you're looking for a possible reversal. It takes off, and there's no second entries. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this. And then finally you get an overshoot, and you get this big bearish bar with plenty of room back to the EMA. Again, the fear here is that it bounces like it almost did off the trend line, but it wouldn't have stopped you out, and then it goes lower. But this was a repeat pattern, so I marked it green because we'd already seen one that we talked about just like this over here somewhere. Right here, I think this was it. And so I marked it. You get a lower high here, not a good signal bar, no reversal, and just the bottom falls out of it. There's no entries all the way down there. And then we bounce. And I marked this one. Notice that you make a new low here. And you get a first entry, second entry. So it looks like a good failure right here with the trend. You're looking for prices to make a new high. And the issue with this one, I would have marked, really the failure occurs when it breaks above here. So you might take that one. Again, it's also a breakout pullback long, and we did test that once before right there. I don't know if you can see where that bar comes back right there and test it, and then it comes back again and test it. It's not a great setup. It's not a reversal. It's just more of a failed second entry, and yeah, I'm not crazy. Again, I'm not crazy about it, especially this late in the day. But they're just what. I mean, as far as trades go, it's about as good as you got this afternoon. So, really tough day. So, hopefully tomorrow will be better. I hate to come back from vacation and get a day like this. So, anyway, that's the way the markets are. Sometimes it's real clear, and then sometimes there's no. And the problem here is there's just no direction. There's no. Everybody's just guessing, and it runs one way and runs the next, and I mean, there's no clear reversal area up here. Notice how it turns at different places every time. Down here, it turns at different places. Those are hard ranges to trade. I mean, every time it comes down here, every time it turns down, it bounces here, then it's real obvious. And every time it turns up, it trades all the way up to here before it turns down, then it's real obvious. But that's not what's happening. You're turning at weird, odd spots every time. And you might be able to find some measured moves in there, but even those are hard to find in this. So it doesn't really help you. You just have to sit tight and be patient and hope you get a good setup, or else you take the day off. Not much else we can do about it. But yeah, if you struggled today, it felt like a hard day, that's because it was. There just weren't many setups, and the ones that were not always clear. And it's just the way the markets go sometimes. So anyway, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. I want to get out of here today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you.